In this task, we can count with specific opportunities provided by the historical circumstance in which we find ourselves. And I now describe three such opportunities. The first opportunity arises from a momentous change in the forms of production. The form of production that prevailed in the richest economies from the middle of the 19th century to the middle of the 20th century was what we sometimes call industrial Fordism, after Henry Ford's assembly line. The concentration of large numbers of workers in a stable labor force in big productive units managed by big corporations. The large-scale production of standardized goods and services with rigid machines and production processes, semi-skilled labor, and very specialized and very hierarchical work relations. Now we find a new form of production emerging in the world. It is characterized not simply by the accumulation of capital, technology, and knowledge, but also and above all by a set of revolutionary methods that make good firms resemble good schools. This new set of practices of production attenuates the contrast between the roles of supervision and of execution. It relativizes all specialized work roles. It mixes fluidly cooperation and competition in the same domains. And above all, it transforms productive activity into a collective practice of permanent learning and innovation. It does so in the first instance in the service of the production of de-standardized goods and services, but it has a much broader potential scope. These vanguard forms of production are now established in all the major economies of the world. In the top tier of the developing countries, as well as in the rich industrial economies. And the network of these advanced sectors has become the commanding force in the world economy. The problem is that the vast majority of humanity remains excluded from these productive vanguards. The contrast between the vanguards and the rearguards has become a major source of inequality and exclusion. And the traditional devices for the redress of inequality, compensatory redistribution managed by the government, and political support for small business have proved inadequate as responses to these forces. But there is a vast potential to generalize these practices of experimental production, of production as permanent learning and innovation, to broad sectors of the economy and the society. To open the gateways, economic and educational, of access to these advanced sectors. And in this way, to give the mass of ordinary men and women the economic and educational equipment that they need. To make their energy productive. A second great opportunity is the desire throughout the world of nations, of societies, and of cultures to be different. The poisonous character of contemporary nationalism lies in this. Two peoples living close together come to resemble each other. And the more they resemble each other, the more they hate each other. They hate each other not because they are different, but because they want to be different and are becoming alike. Throughout the world, different societies are required to emulate one another's practices, to sacrifice part of their collective identity at the altar of this worldwide practical and spiritual competition. And thus, the impotent rage of difference is at once aroused and frustrated. The solution is not to retreat into an empty cosmopolitanism, but rather to equip the desire for difference with the institutional and cultural instruments for the creation of real difference. And there, too, lies an opportunity for fundamental transformation. A third opportunity is the yearning of hundreds of millions of people throughout the world to rise to a condition of modest prosperity and independence. The predominant ideal is not proletarian, it is the ideal of the smallholder, of the small business person, of the self-employed economic agent, not standing in someone else's shadow,